Welcome to Anonymousaurus podcast. I'm your host, Zero, and today we have Andrew in the house, as well as Turbo Tater, Bell, Ashish Kebab, and Tom Bob. All right. If you guys, Andrew, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm Andrew. I'm from the UK. Um, and so yeah, we kind of came across this on Facebook, I believe. And yeah, so I've just been sort of interested in doing a podcast with you and just see where it goes.
Yes, sir. All right. And since this is going to be about veganism, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience in veganism and kind of like your uh, what kind of things you do that's correlated to possibly veganism or possibly the opposite of veganism?
Yeah, sure. I'm the son of a British farmer. I'm a meat eater and a dairy eater. And I mean, I understand sort of both from both sides, but I mean, I think a lot of, especially militant veganism, a lot of it is fabricated, I believe. Um, and I I think that there's a lot of sort of animosity from both sides, but meat eaters and vegans and whatever. And I think that there needs to be sort of a middle ground found. So yeah, I'm trying
Okay.
to sort of understand what that middle ground is really.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. We'll go ahead and bring a shish kebab up here, and we'll see what he has to say about some things. I know we've had a podcast before, and he's quite elaborately put his stance on everything. But why don't you go ahead and reintroduce yourself, Ashish?
Um, okay, well, hi, I'm Ashish. I have been a vegan only for the past, like 2 years or so. I was raised vegetarian. That was more so. I started vegetarian as a religion. Um, I mean, based on my parents' religion, and then, um, recently I chose to follow a vegan philosophy. Um, so.
Awesome. That sounds great. And we will go ahead and bring up Turbo Tater, and we'll have him share a little bit about himself, who he is, and what his stance is.
Yeah, my name is Turbo Tater. My mom named me after a particularly fast potato. Um, I met gaming several years ago. Um,
Tell us a little bit about your stance on veganism.
um, I'm not particularly vegan. In fact, I eat whatever I really want to. I do think there's a problem, like Andrew said, with people being very biased for or against one or the other.
Yeah.
I think there's more there's like a middle ground, and uh, there's not really the perfect solution for anybody, I think.
Yeah, sure. Okay, perfect. And then I guess we'll have Tom come on up here and share a little bit about himself and just like his experiences with veganism.
I'm Tom. Hi. I'm not really sure what to say to start this. I've never been on a podcast before.
Okay. Well, basically, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us your stance on veganism.
So, at my age, I'm called Tom. I'm 26. I've been vegetarian since I was about 12 and vegan since I was 16, so about 10 years now, just under. I don't know how in depth you want me to go right now.
Sure. Yeah. Go as in depth as you feel fit.
Okay. So I have my kind of sticking point with veganism is I believe that killing animals when it's unnecessary is wrong. And because I'm in a position where I don't need to eat animals, or I can afford and live a lifestyle where I don't have to use animals, I choose not to.
Okay, perfect. That sounds good to me. And then we will go ahead and welcome up our last guest, which is Belle. Belle, why don't you come on up and tell us a little bit about yourself and your stance on veganism? Don't forget you're on mute.
Yep, I was mute. So hi. I mean, as far as stances on it go, I was a vegetarian for 3 years. My sister's been a vegetarian for longer, so I'm pretty used to like catering to that kind of diet. And as far as it goes, like I like to reduce like how much meat I eat and be mindful of like the animal products I use. So like ethical consumption has kind of always been more my focus, and I think there's kind of a balance with meeting your needs but also trying to have some moral ground, I guess. So that's kind of my stance.
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure. That works fine. All right. So thank you very much, everybody, for introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about yourself. Since Ashish is the one that actually instigated all this, and he's really good at basically writing a bit about it, and he's done his fair share of research, I'll go ahead and welcome him back up. And we'll go ahead and start off. Ashish, what are like basically your concerns in people who do eat meat?
Um, well, for one thing, I just want to say I was not expecting there to be this many people. Um, so I was expecting more to have like a conversation with a single person, but I guess I'll figure this out.
Yeah, you're good.
But so veganism is a philosophy and way of living that seeks to exclude, as far as is practicable, all forms of exploitation and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, testing, entertainment, and any other purpose. So the thing, so as humans, we are omnivorous, and we can get every nutrient that we need on a plant-based diet. There have been hundreds of studies, probably thousands of studies, on this exact topic. We can get every single nutrient that we need from a plant-based diet. So we don't need to eat animals, and we don't need to drink their breast milk. We don't need to, eat their eggs. We just don't need to. There was a time when when we were evolving, when we did so for survival purposes. But in the society we live in now, we don't need to. So the problem I have with it is we are causing harm and suffering to sentient beings that can feel pain, that can suffer, that have their own conscious experience of the world around them, when we don't have to. So that would be,
Yeah.
I guess that answers your question.
Sure. Yeah. Andrew, how do you feel about that?
I mean, that's understandable, but I mean, when you say conscious beings and everything, well, they are. I mean, the thing is with vegans, especially militant vegans, is they anthropomorphize these animals. So they compare, a calf to a human. But they're not human. That's the thing. I mean, cows aren't aware that we eat them. You know, it's difficult. There is an evolutionary standpoint for why we eat meat and why we consume dairy and everything. I understand that.
So basically, let me kind of
Yeah,
interject
go on.
there.
Yeah.
I guess what would be the difference between eating a plant versus eating like a steak, for example?
Well, I mean, you say eating a steak. I mean, just obviously it comes from a conscious animal, but it, this is what I mean. I understand that there is a middle ground to be found here, but I mean, the cow that steak came from doesn't know that we're going to eat it any more than the plant knows that we're going to eat it. Do you understand?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so can I respond?
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so replace the cow with a dog. And let's say you raise the dog and the dog doesn't know that we're going to kill it and eat it in a year. Does that make it okay?
Yeah. I don't think it's a question of doesn't make it okay. I mean, so I understand what you're saying, but I mean, you know, this is the food chain, the natural order of things. We are omnivores. We get our nutrition or whatever from a plant-based and a meat-based diet. I mean,
Tom,
like,
I do see you. I will get to you in a minute. Go ahead, Andrew.
no, sorry, carry on. That was yeah,
Well, so I mean,
Okay. No,
I
no, no,
did
no. You're fine.
acknowledge that
Mhm.
we are omnivores, and that
yeah,
means we can eat animals, but we don't have to. Um,
yeah.
so I mean, as
Okay,
far as the food chain goes, the food chain, um, I mean,
let's go ahead and get Tom up here and see what he has to say about this. Um,
Hello.
all right. What do you have to say, Tom?
Well, when we talk about eating animals throughout history, and obviously humans have eaten animals to get to get to where we are, mainly for like calories. It's worth pointing out that just because we did something in the past doesn't justify doing it now. That would be an appeal to tradition. I think it's a fallacy, anyways. And the idea that just because we used to do something or we're accustomed to it doesn't make it okay and doesn't make it, air quotes, just do so. Especially when in doing so it causes harm.
Sure. Let's see what Turbo Tater has to say about this. Turbo Tater, do you have anything to say? Put any input?
Yeah, I do, and I lost my train of thought for a minute.
You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, come back to me.
Go
Give me
ahead.
like 30 seconds or
Okay.
so.
Sure. Sure. Definitely. Okay. Belle, do you have anything to say?
I mean, yeah, I mean, listening to that, I'm sure I have plenty to say. When it comes to, and I know there's a lot of studies that, and I think this is where you kind of play like society as well has a role in whether it's feasible for people to conform to a vegan diet. Because on a technicality, yeah, you could technically get all your nutrients on a vegan diet, but that's not going to be accessible for everybody in every area and every part of society. You're going to get people in different pockets where vegan food's abundant and you can get it, but then you're going to have other pockets of society where sometimes you're just going to have to take what's available and that to meet your needs, and that's not even giving like credit to like health issues that some people do have that um cause dietary restrictions that can cause the need for eating animals. So my take is that it's more about harm reduction. So like what can we do to reduce the harm? How can we ethically kill the animals without hurting them, or like if we have to do that kind of thing. So
Sure. Ashish, I see
yeah.
your hand. Let's go ahead and hear what you have to say.
well, just to respond to that, I mean, it could be the case that maybe some small fraction of people will have a lot of trouble with following a plant-based diet. They might be living in a food desert. But for us here, like generally people tend to use that argument as a whataboutism. You know, what about these people over there? What if you were stranded on a desert? Would you kill an animal savage? But the thing is, for the vast majority of people in the vast majority of situations, a plant-based diet is completely feasible. And the other thing is, you know, you mentioned killing an animal ethically, but is it ethical to take the life of someone who does not want to die and who does not need to die?
Well,
Take your time. You're
I got
good.
so many.
It doesn't have to be shots fired,
Yeah,
you know?
no. I understand what he's saying. And I guess I wanted to point out that the concept of right or wrong, you know, varies from person to person. You know, what's the question earlier about you know, would it be okay to, you know, raise a dog and kill it for food someday? I wouldn't say that's even wrong if you raised it for that purpose. it is a lower form of life. You know, animals don't have a conscience as far as we're aware. Yeah, I'm not trying to say it's right to do that, but I will say it's not wrong.
Okay. All right. Ashish, before we get to Tom, do you have any response to
Well, I
that?
guess it's. I mean, yeah, you can say morality is subjective, but then I would ask you, would you find it wrong for me to go and rape my neighbor? And if you say yes, then the fact is you don't say morality is subjective. Even though you might say, technically it is, but you personally don't. Almost nobody does. And the thing is that if for most people, especially in Western culture, if we replace any farm animal with a dog, people tend to have outrage. I mean, people have outrage about things like the Yule and Dog Meat Festival and the fact that people eat dogs in Asian countries.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I mean, when you say whether animals have a conscience, I don't know what you mean by conscience. But we do know that animals feel emotions. We do know they're conscious. They have a subjective experience. They can perceive the world around them. And more important than any of that is that they can feel pain and they can suffer. And they also have an innate desire to not die. They have a desire to live. And so when we kill them, I mean, killing them is wrong for the exact same reason that it's wrong to kill a human. Because killing the human is robbing them of their life that they want to continue living when they don't need to die.
First, the whole comparison with rape to eating animals, I'm not too keen on these kind of the language that's used. I know I shouldn't really police language, but I feel like that can be really detrimental because it can make vegans seem extreme, in my opinion. What I wanted to do is actually we were talking about. I heard people talking about well, animals aren't necessarily sentient, and it made me question. And this is more of a consistency test. What attribute of an human, what attribute do we have that animals don't have that makes it not okay to kill us, but okay to kill animals?
Belle, did you have something to say to that,
Oh no,
or
I think I
should I
just
get to
wrestled
Turbo Tater?
something, but I had something
You're
else to
fine. You're
say
fine. Okay,
after
we'll
we
get
get to
back to
whoever
Turbo
answers
Tater
that.
then. All right, Turbo Tater. I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think it's not just a consciousness and the idea that we can die, and the desire to not die, but our ability to reason and know like consequences to our actions and um, like think on a higher level. Like we wouldn't be as advanced as we are today if and not as advanced, but like we're constantly progressing, whereas animals just kind of stay where they are.
Does
You know,
progressing, does us progressing in them not justify killing them?
it's the desire. It's our desire to always be better for a purpose and not just continue to exist.
I want to pull this back to my original question. What attribute do animals have or lack that justifies us killing them?
Okay, Turbo Tater, do you have anything to respond to that?
What? Say that again. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I said what attribute do animals have or lack that justifies killing them?
That justifies killing them. Well, like I said before,
Just,
I don't think it's necessarily right to kill them, but I do think, I mean, I guess
You're good.
it just raises the question of if you don't think don't necessarily think it's right to do it,
right.
then why do you do it?
Well, we do it because it's more convenient than eating plants. We would have to eat a lot more plants than
Is convenience a good enough reason to kill animals?
is what?
I said, is
Convenient.
convenience a good enough reason to kill animals?
I think it is. I mean, it sounds messed up, but I think it is. Yes, to put it bluntly. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I do see hands up in the audience here, and I know Ashish has a lot to say about this one. So we'll go ahead and swap out here. We're going to go ahead and bring Ashish up.
Okay, so you made a couple points. For one thing, you said, animals can't reason, but we've done a lot of studies that have shown this not to be the case. I mean, anytime we study animal cognition, it's not like scientists are like, oh, wow, the animal's way more stupid than we thought. We always find that animals are far more intelligent than we've ever given them credit for. Pigs, for example, can actually solve fairly complex puzzles. Many animals can recognize themselves in a mirror, so they know that they themselves are a member of their species versus the others. Elephants, for example, and bury their dead. I mean, we've seen a lot of really intelligent behavior out of animals. But also, there are human beings that are cognitively impaired. That they'll grow up with a severe intellectual disability and they won't be able to reason, as you might say. But would that justify killing them and eating them?
No. And those are the last things you pointed out are kind of departures from the norm. So those don't really count as a standard for a species. But
Does that matter?
well, no, I'm saying. Well, you just pointed out for like elephants or for impaired people. That's not. I'm not saying it's okay to kill them because they lack an ability to reason like the rest of people. I'm just saying, I'm just kind of saying it's accepted by humans because we've all kind of we all kind of recognize each other as being on the same level. I
mean,
guess.
have we always? Because haven't we, throughout history, on many occasions, resorted to things like eugenics and seen certain people as inferior? I mean, we used to see slaves as no more than animals, and we used to treat them as
at different points in time and with different societies, they might see it differently for a short period of time, but we all kind of default back to, it being wrong to kill people for
yeah, so the thing is, throughout history, we've used the same justification over and over again. We see certain groups, whether they're people or they're animals, as inferior, and we will treat them as such. The other thing that you mentioned was, the convenience of animals. The thing is, it takes far more plants to produce animals than it does to eat the plants themselves, because the animals that we eat also eat plants. So as far as convenience goes, if we were to switch to a plant-based diet, we already produce enough food to feed 10 billion people. Meanwhile, 1 out of every 10 people go hungry. And also, actually, back to the original point, the thing, like, you say animals aren't as smart as us, but you know what's even less smart than animals are plants? Plants aren't smart at all, so even that train of thought still leads to, eating plants.
Right,
Okay.
and I'm not. Let me just respond to that, and I'll be done.
Sure.
I'm not saying like, eat all animals. Plants are obviously, in all of our diets.
Story for everyone. And I mean, that might be anecdotal, but
Well, so from an evidence-based perspective, all plant proteins have all amino acids. I mean, they have different variations, different concentrations of them, but you can definitely get all the protein that you need on a plant-based diet. And the data shows that regardless, any animal product, every single animal product actually, uses more plants than just eating plants, because those products come from animals that have to eat plants.
I might cause some mass chaos right now, but I'm gonna just go ahead and accept everybody on stage and see what happens. Because I saw that Tom had his hand up a while back, and Turbo Tater has his hand
I was
up.
like,
I want to see if he has something to say, both of them. So let's cause some chaos here.
I'm your host, 0215, and we thank you very much for listening to Anonymousaurus podcast. Please keep an eye out as there are podcasts posted regularly. Thank you again, and you have a wonderful day.